Hey everybody, welcome to Autism Awakening, the podcast that helps you help your child with autism. I'm Dr. Jared Skowron, biomedical doctor of 20 years and an international autism expert, and I'm really excited about today's podcast. We're having another guest on today. His name is Len Arcuri and his wife Cass Arcuri. I've known them for a while now, and they've got a child on the spectrum, and they have decided to take everything that they've done to help their child and turn it into a coaching program to help other parents. Because they know, because they've been in that driver's seat that you guys are in, they know how hard it is to do all the things that you need to do. If you were on the podcast where we had the guest, Janetta Bryant, she's down in Florida and she offers all these services to kind of help you guys connect with everybody that you need to, whether it be the schools, whether it needs to be the therapists, whether it's the biomedical doctors. So it's great because I want to help you guys in every way possible. And obviously my specialty is the biomedical interventions to kind of help their insides recover. But it's important to have all those other services together. And, you know, who knows what to do if you haven't been through it. And so that's why it's great that there are people out here like Len and Cass who are offering all of their experience. Basically, they're offering their experience to guide you guys through it. And now I'm finally excited. We've got our guest speaker here, Len Arcuri, and of course, Len and his wife, Cass. Len, thanks for joining us.
So great to be here, Dr. Jared.
Before we start, I've kind of been talking about you and what you offer and, you know, kind of where you've come from. But I wanted to read one of our comments today. Melanie says, "We love Len and I'm so glad you're having him on." So people know you and they're glad you're here. And I was kind of, watch out. I was kind of telling people that, you know, I love having this podcast and this Facebook Live because I want to share my knowledge of medicine and how we help our kids biomedically. But there's so much that I don't offer. And you, having a child on the spectrum, having been through this for a number of years, can give parents this overarching guide, you know, and this overarching coaching. Even last week on our podcast, I had my coach on, and you know, he's a coach that kind of helps us center ourselves and be calm under stress, and that's so important to do. And he has a kid on the spectrum as well. But what you offer with your coaching, with you and your wife, is so great because you're covering everything and you've been through it. So thank you for being on. I'm going to close my mouth because I want you to tell people how you can help them.
Fantastic. And I just so appreciate the opportunity because this is something that parents don't, there's nothing for parents to really get equipped to navigate this journey. And you know, the last thing we're about is trying to tell parents what to do, right? Because there's a lot of people who want to give parents advice, particularly parents who, you know, who've been at this journey a while, may very well intentionally be giving advice, but you know, that advice may not be what's right for other parents. So really what we're about and the support, it's all about helping a parent to step into that much stronger, much clearer, much calmer and more loving version of themselves. So it's not about giving advice as much as really about parent transformation, which is a step that all parents miss, including us. And it took us, you know, now we're into like 14 years since our son was diagnosed. And at least, you know, speaking for myself, I've been obsessed with figuring out what is it that a parent might be lacking early on for them to really get what they truly want, which is to be the best parent they can be for their child. And the unfortunate news is no parent's really equipped to navigate this because we all have blind spots. We all have lousy habits that have been okay up until now for us navigating our own life. But in terms of making good decisions for our child, you know, if we just tolerate these ways we operate, you know, being late for meetings, being a little bit, you know, absent-minded or not really having the patience to follow through on things, you know, all those maybe habits that we all have to some degree, that's all going to get magnified in a negative way unless you work on that first. Get yourself more equipped because there's no guru who's going to tell you what to do, whether that's my wife and I with the coaching we provide, or with you as a doctor. And I know early on, I so wanted to find that person. Just here, fix my kid. I'm not qualified. And the big secret is that, parent, you are the key. Without a doubt, there's nobody better positioned to figure out what's going to help your child the most, whatever that is. And so really everything we're about, Dr. Jared, is to help a parent figure out what's holding them back, what's keeping them stuck specifically. Because parents who are driven to be great parents and to support their kid, not every parent is that motivated, but for motivated parents, a lot of them have great intentions, but they're just programmed for failure. And when I say that, I don't say that lightly. They're programmed for failure in the sense that the journey will feel harder than it needs to, and they're not going to be in a position to really clearly decide those few things that are going to help their child the most. And so the big mistake is a lot of times either parents do nothing, or and they just say, hey, it is what it is, or they throw the kitchen sink at their child doing way too much. There's no way you can follow through and do 30 things well. So it's like, how do they get to that place where they can choose those few things, do them really well, and to really benefit from the guidance of a practitioner like you? Again, that was all of these things that I'm talking about. I wasn't equipped. I suffered from two problems early on. I was cocky, thinking, oh, I got this. I'm a smart guy. And then at the same time, I held the idea like, I'm not qualified. I need to find that expert. And I think the sweet spot is for a parent to rise into this very different version of themselves. We call it parent transformation. And that's really what our podcast is all about and what our coaching's about.
That's awesome. And you know what I was thinking when you started talking about, hey, there's no guidebook. I mean, you're just kind of hit, like with an oncoming truck when you start getting these diagnoses. I mean, you might have an idea and a suspicion, and you're like, yeah, but it must be such a big, smack in the face. Like, whoa, what happened? And I mean, I just remember, getting my daughter back home from the hospital when she was first born, and they're like, here you go. I'm like, wait a minute, Ed, wait, what? And diapers and what? And then there's never mind a guidebook to parenting. I mean, a guidebook to parenting a child on the spectrum.
Exactly. And even before our son Rye was diagnosed, I was befuddled. Like, nobody's equipped me. There is no class or no guidebook on how to parent. So, we all default to how we were raised, or what we see around us. And if there's one thing I know for certain is that, at least for me, the way my parents raised me and parented me, not that it's right or wrong, but that way of parenting absolutely was going to make everything 100% worse for my son. If I tried to take that parenting model and use it on my son, but my default was to do that. And thankfully, Cass and I had a lot of great influences early on that helped us see that we had to chart a different path. And I totally honor and appreciate how all parents show up, and just giving themselves permission to do something different, to go against perhaps what their parents, how they raised them, or to do a special diet when everyone else is saying that's nonsense, or going any alternative route. I was definitely in a position where I felt, listen, I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm not going to do anything crazy. And I really operated where I don't want to do anything where people might judge me as doing something that's a waste of time, or something that, whatever, that might be foolish. So I was really more focused on what people thought about me and my decision making than really stepping into, I'm going to do what's right for my son, and I don't care what other people think. It's easy to say that, but to actually take actions that cut against and that might piss some people off, I wasn't equipped to do that. I had to learn it, and that's really what we're trying to help parents with. It really is about how they're navigating, not necessarily what interventions they do.
Yeah, and I love what you said about, we are our parents' child, and there's so much of our behavior that's nurture. not nature. And, and anybody who's kind of gone through self-discovery or counseling or whatever, there's so much retrospection that we never do and say, wait, why am I doing these things? Okay, wait, that's what my dad did. That's what my mom did. And that was good, or boy, that sucked. And why am I still doing this? So even just that kind of objective retrospection on why are these habits mine? And that's how we were raised. And we just like our kids, they do what we do. And we do what our parents did. And can we intervene? And the first step is observation and saying, hey, here are my patterns. And are they good? Are they effective? Or can I make them better?
Yeah, that's beautifully said, and really it even goes back a little bit further, where for a parent to accept or acknowledge that they can operate better. Like, in other words, again, there's this. Basically, everything our podcast is about, our coaching, it's not for everyone, because a parent at least needs to at the outset raise their hand and say, I'm going to do what's required for my child. I'm willing to work on myself. Because if you just stay in the model, like my child's the one with the issue and I'm fine, again, I think that's just a huge mistake, because none of us are equipped, because we all have the blind spots and ways we operate that, again, it's not that they're good or bad. It's not like you have bad habits or a bad mindset. It's just that right now, at least when we received the diagnosis, the mindset I had, the beliefs, the stories I was telling myself, all those were in play. And I wasn't even conscious of a lot of them. That's a big part of the coaching. But all that's at play. And the issue is those things are not aligned to you, the parent, getting what you want now. And again, even you understanding what you really want for your child is something that a lot of parents maybe don't check in on. So just briefly, for me, what did I want early on? I wanted autism gone. I wanted it gone so fast that I wouldn't have to explain it to family and friends that we had this diagnosis. That diagnosis had a huge negative charge for me. And so I had this initial objective, autism gone. We're going to solve it. We're going to figure it out. We're going to do whatever we need to do. And so even the objective that I had, I didn't realize it at the time, was totally setting me and my son and our whole family up for failure. So checking in on that. So when I look back on it now, of course, what did I really want? It wasn't autism gone, because if I wanted autism gone, I could have paid some developmental pediatrician a lot of money, say, give me a good diagnosis, right? But what I really wanted for my son and for myself was connection. The hardest part about autism was that my son couldn't care less about me, wanted nothing to do with my world, and I wanted to be connected to him, and I was so judging all of his behaviors and all those things. I was pushing him away. So basically, what I really wanted was connection, and the way I was operating was 100% opposite of what I wanted most. And that's where, if parents can shift their mindset, their beliefs, build up some better problem-solving skills and how to really take action consistently, everything opens up. And again, very few parents raise their hand and say, I'm the one, I'm the decision maker in chief, as Cass always talks about. I'm the CEO of my child. I'm not handing this off to any expert. I'm the one. And then from that place, just making sure that you're empowered and you have the skills and the insight, strategies, and tools to make the best decision you can, because there's nobody more qualified than you, the parent, of what's right for your child.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I tell. Two things that I tell my patients. And number one, no one knows your child better than you. Okay, it's not your pediatrician.
Yeah.
Trust me. Somebody who might spend 10 minutes with you, a couple times a year, they don't know your kid. You know your kid, right? And I'm also glad you said that the stereotypical dad's, the stereotypical man's perspective. I get two from my patients. Number one is just the stubborn denial husband, which is, nope, this isn't happening. Nope, this is not autism. Nope, 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 nope.
Yep, I was there.
The seagulls in that Disney movie, I forget what movie that is, Nemo. Or the other side, which is, I'm a man and I fix problems. right? Which is like, okay, there's a problem and I'm going to fix it. And it it's different than that. And yes, you are the CEO, and yes, you're going to manage this team to help your child. But what you really want, and you use the word connection, I use the word engagement. I want, it's the same thing. It's getting together on a different space. Maybe not yours, maybe not theirs, but where is that space?
That's right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the good news in all of this is that there is so much that's going to come your way as a parent with your child, with what other people around you are going to do, say, and all that. And we have control over none of that, right? Like things are going to happen that we don't want. And surprises, negative surprises, all that's going to happen. But when it comes to this way of navigating, this way of being the parent that you truly are, it's about unleashing and letting come to fruition your true power. But that opportunity to transform is 100% within your control to do something about it. So it's actually, instead of it being something daunting, hey, how do I do this? It sounds hard, everyone's already spent as it is. But, think about it. This is an opportunity, again, for you to first acknowledge you're not where you could be. And then from going here to where you truly want to be is 100% doable, and it's doable fast, and it's 100% within your control. You don't need anyone else to change, including your child. And that basically is parent transformation. So Autism Parenting Secrets, our podcast, it's a great title for a podcast, and it's horrible. Let me explain why it's horrible. It has nothing to do with autism. It's autism because we know that journey. We want to serve those parents. I personally feel like it's a uniquely challenging journey. If your child has a cancer diagnosis, you get a lot of sympathy and support. With autism, people run the other way. They don't know how to react, and so it's uniquely hard. So we want to serve that population, but everything our podcast is about, and you've been on twice, all the insights that we share, the perspectives that are in there from dynamite guests like you, aren't autism specific. This would help a parent who has a child with any challenging situation or neurotypical, and it's just a different way of being a parent, and really, again, stepping into your true power. So Autism Parenting Secrets, it's not only about autism. Parenting, it's not us giving parenting advice necessarily, because it's really just, again, how a parent's navigating, right? And the secrets are, yes, the insights and things that maybe parents don't know that would be really beneficial for them to know earlier in the journey, rather than like us taking 14 years to figure this out. So it's secrets in the sense that each episode goes deep on one key thing. It's not a 3-hour Joe Rogan interview. It's really honing in on one key insight. And that's basically what the podcast is all about. And the secrets, each episode is a different secret, but really the biggest secret is, parent, you're the key. You shift. If you change now, if you get into this different version of yourself, watch how much better the journey feels for you, but then also watch how much more progress your child makes. Now, I use that term very specifically. You can define progress in a number of different ways, but we know when parents get out of their own way, get clearer, really address the root cause of what's happening with their child instead of hacking at the symptoms, they'll make better decisions. Their child will benefit. But the real way parents give this gift to their child is that these kids make significant improvement for an even bigger reason. The parent is exuding a totally different energy. The child's receiving a safer parent, one who's more predictable, one who's more loving, one who's actually present, and not looking at their child with heartbreak and frustration. So again, you want to see your child become more connected, and for behaviors to go down, and for them to step in and their body just to be better versions. You change first and watch how the child feeds off your now much more powerful positive energy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I've loved being on your podcast, and your podcast is great because it's so broad. You bring in all these guests that from all these different parts of the world. But, like you said, when you're better, your child can be better. You're holding that space for them. Children are fluid, spectrum or not. Children are fluid and changing and learning. And just going back to what we started this conversation with, we are our parents' child and we learn from them. Our kids are learning from us. And so if we're in a better place, they'll be in a better place. In fact, I just had a patient yesterday, whose child is 22 and didn't really start to become verbal until he was in his late teens. And when he started talking and sharing, he was sharing stories when he was in first and second grade. And so many parents or people who really don't understand their child yet just think, oh wow, if they can't talk, they don't know anything. But they're soaking it all in. They're sponges. So from any age, they are feeling us. They are listening to us. They are hearing us. Maybe they're not responding or responding the way we want, but they're taking it all in.
Without a doubt, and I can 100% confirm what you just said is absolutely true, but entirely reasonable for parents to doubt that, because we want to see evidence of it. But time and time again, our son proved it to ourselves, to us. He was nonverbal, and we had an actual phenomenal therapist, behavioral therapist at the time, who actually whispered in our ear saying, hey, you probably don't want to say anything about Rye that you wouldn't say directly to him. Like, just assume he understands. And thank goodness she said that, because my son now even relays things that happened when he wasn't verbal. So he was taking it in, and countless examples where, these kids, particularly if they're non-speakers, that does not demonstrate that they're not taking it in. And again, they're operating differently. So I think that's a great thing for parents to know. And again, that just shows there's so much that your child's capable of that you may not be aware of. Just like you as a parent, you're capable of so much more. And I'm not saying that like you're a lowly parent, you need to sign up for our coaching no, it's like, no, you're phenomenal, but you can be wildly unrecognizable at this different level. But if you think you're going to do that by ignoring your own self-care and for keeping, just your way of operating, running on fumes, trying to do everything, destined for burnout, you're kidding yourself. So that's where something like self-care isn't a luxury. You have to be that strong, force for positive change, for good for your child. So putting everyone else first, including your child, and not focusing on yourself, it's unacceptable. It totally goes against everything that you want for your child.
Yeah. Yeah. And even with my daughter, I'll find myself in situations where I'm at a point where I'm being pulled in a million directions and I'm stressed and I'm right on the edge, the straw that broke the camel's back. There's one more straw. I'm waiting for it. And then my daughter will do something and I'll be like, okay, I can do that, but then I'll lose it. Okay. And we all have been there. We, at least I hate myself when I do that. It's like, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to be strong enough to do what I can, strong enough to choose, hey, these are the things I can do, these are the things that I can't do, and provide that structure.
That's
so
right.
walk our listeners through kind of the coaching that you provide other parents. What are kind of those really great key things that you guys offer?
Well, I think one of the key things is it's all about personalization. So right now, the main way we're coaching parents is more of a concierge type thing where we only work with a handful of clients, and it's because we can get very specific to exactly for that parent what's happening. So we developed an assessment. It's 130 questions. It takes a while for a parent to go through it, but after that initial assessment, we know exactly where the parent is, where are the biggest obstacles in their way. So think of it like a Pareto chart, right? Where you have, 80% of something that's happening is usually driven by 20% of the effort, right? So there's that concept that there may be a lot of things that a parent can improve, but what are the few things that are absolutely keeping them stuck? So our assessment is designed to really, for the first time, to reveal to the parent exactly what is in the way, what's causing the friction, because that's the enemy, it's friction. And so the assessment's a big part of it. We've been delighted, by the way. When we started this coaching, we thought it was going to be all in moms, warrior moms. Our coaching used to be called warrior parent coaching. I still like the term, although, it's not about being at war with anything, right? So it's all in parent coaching now. But we've been delighted that it's both mom and dad showing up for these calls. We assess both of them, and guess what? They're in totally different places. And like you were saying with dads, how they're looking at this and processing it, totally different than mom. So for each of them, we personalize, we go to exactly where they're stuck. It'd be easy for us to create a program saying, hey, it's module 1, module 2, module 3, and we have a program that's part of the course, but there's nothing like going directly to where an individual parent is stuck. And so much of it, at least from my vantage point, are in the beliefs, the stories the parents telling themselves that they know are true, but are causing all the friction. So that may be them and something they believe about autism, right? It could be something they're believing about their child. Most of the beliefs that basically cause all the problems are some version of my child is broken, right? Which I had, but that's a big part of it. Or even more, Dr. Jared, it's stories the parents telling themselves about themselves. And in a variety of ways, a parent beating themselves up, shame, guilt, whatever the case may be, with the intent to motivate the parent to do better. But guess what? That never helps you do better. So it's these stories that create the friction. And a lot of times it's just the awareness for the parent to see what stories are they playing. And in that space of understanding what they're doing, they can shift like lightning to something that actually serves them. So, you know, when we look at parents and we look at how they're navigating, there's 5 aspects of how they're navigating. And we have this tree metaphor for it. You know, just quickly, the trunk of the tree represents the mindset, your attitude, right? And I think everyone listening to this live right now has a positive mindset. They know more is possible, you know, right? You can always make that even bigger and more supportive, more of a growth mindset. So that's one aspect of how a parent's navigating. The second one is the beliefs. Those are the roots below, like they're hidden from view, but the roots of the tree are these stories that I mentioned. Huge area of opportunity. You got 100% control that a parent can do something about rapidly. And then the soil surrounding the tree, that's the environment. And you talk about this stuff all the time, right? Toxins in the food, water, air, toxic people surrounding your child. I mean, all of that, you can curate a much more healthful environment. So the soil is really important. And then the leaves of the tree, that's the knowledge a parent has and the actions they're taking. Most of the time, that's where parents start. They just start doing a bunch of things. And the key here is is really doing more, doing less, not more for your child, and doing them well, and ensuring that at least some of what you're doing is getting to the root of what's going on with your child. And that's where we really help parents find that right medical practitioner to give them that advice, because we don't pretend to be doctors. We're not gonna like diagnose your child, but we can help understand what you're looking for and help you find that right practitioner. But again, having a root cause focus is a really key part of it. And then the final part of the tree are the leaves of the tree, which is, the leaves of the tree, which is basically the vision you have for your child, the goal, and breaking that vision of what you're wanting for your child, what you're wanting for yourself, breaking that down into goals that really channel your energy. So those are the 5 ways, or actually the final one, the vision, that's the fruit of the tree. So the leaves are the knowledge and the actions. The fruit, the apple, that's the vision, and having goals that channel your effort. So these are the 5 ways that parents are operating. And we have a way of scoring parents. They get a power score from 1 to 100, and they get scores across those 5 areas. And so we'll know exactly where, for that particular parent, their biggest areas of opportunity are. Because usually what happens is they're doing great in certain areas, but other areas are way below, and that's kind of dragging everything down. So that's the point of personalized support.
No, that's awesome. And you're totally right about beliefs. You know, wherever we get our beliefs from, whether that's our pediatrician or our family or media, you know, we have these beliefs and they limit us, whatever it's about, whether it's our kid or whether it's anything, you know. And I hear this from my patients as well, where you know, I'll have patients say, "Oh, I want to help my kid, but I know he'll never talk again." I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. Who says that? Who said you're already limiting him? That's something I want to help you with. And the other thing, and it just makes me sad, is that shame and that guilt, like, oh, I did this, and you know, this is my fault. And I tell families, I straight up, in our appointments, I'm like, look, autism is a medical condition. This is not parenting. You did not make this happen. I've had people say, oh geez, we had so many kids all at once and I just had to sit them in front of the TV and I made this happen. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
No, this is a medical thing. So just helping us move those beliefs for anything is gonna help them. Now
Yeah.
I was watching something that you sent me that I wanted to make sure our listeners heard was the change in ATEC scores
Yep.
that you guys get. And for those people who aren't familiar, ATEC is a survey of how your child's doing. It stands for Autism Treatment Evaluation Checklist. So it's a nice, quick parent survey that evaluates, hey, where's my kid at?
Yep, that's right, and highly recommend anybody use it. It's free. It's very useful. It's not perfect, but it does give you an idea of how on the spectrum your child is. It was designed to help you evaluate interventions, right? Is something helping or not? Because a lot of times we can't notice the changes. So with that way of assessing a child, what we've found is that when parents, particularly when they get, listen to the if you do nothing else, just listen to the podcast. Go to episode 1. We've designed it as a master class and it all builds. It's all going to help you. But the one-on-one coaching is about speed, helping a parent transform rapidly. So with this assessment I mentioned, the parents that we've worked with now for 3-4 years now, the average starting score for a parent, and this is from 1 to 100, is a 64. And so our goal is to help the parent increase that score. And on average, only within the first 12 weeks is a big sprint to help the parent make as much progress as fast as possible. So that score goes from a 64 to an 86, which is a 34% jump. Trust me, that is the parent being unrecognizable. But as you mentioned, the parents do assess their child with an ATEC to see where the child is at the start of the program. And we assess them at the beginning and at the end. But in just that 12-week period, that ATEC score on average, again, goes from a 66 on average, which is probably more moderate, borderline severe autism, a 66. And again, this is just the average of all the people we've coached. That score goes from a 66 to a 46 in 12 weeks, which is a 31% drop, or better phrase, a 31% improvement for that child.
Wow.
Now, there's no intervention that I've ever come across that can do something like that as rapidly, and it's for the reasons I mentioned. It's not that my wife and I are miracle workers. It's just that when the parent gets out of fight or flight themselves, when they step in and unleash their full power, sincerely trusting themselves and letting go of anything that's going to hold them back, including shame, guilt, and all these things, the magic happens. So yeah, so it's incredible seeing how much the parent changing impacts the child.
It's like releasing the brakes. It's like taking your foot off the brake pedal and letting what should happen.
Right, absolutely.
That is awesome. I want to start getting to our live questions because we've got, and if anybody has a question either for Len or for myself, type them in the comments section. Before we get to the live questions, I want to make sure people know where to get a hold of you and anything else you want to make sure parents know about what, again, hey, this is so essential for parents to do with your coaching.
I think just really for the key message for parents is really allow yourself to be that decision maker in chief, right? So that's the first step. And then if you're going to do that, get as equipped as possible, whatever that means for you. We have the honor of coaching parents one-on-one. If that's something that speaks to you, reach out. But otherwise, listen to the podcast, because I think going back when everything started with me, I didn't have time for videos or courses, but I could always listen to something while chaos was going on around me. I could always put the headphones on while doing the dishes and listen. So really, I just encourage parents to go listen to the podcast. If it serves you, give us a rating and review. That always helps other parents find it. Again, you've got some dynamite episodes in there as well. So yeah, go there. And then if you want to get a sense of what your top blind spot is, we do have a quiz, so you can go to our website or you can go to allinparent.com/go. And that basically will bring you to this quiz, which of those 5 areas I talked about, you'll at least know which one of those is perhaps your biggest area of opportunity. And that could be really empowering in and of itself.
Nice. So we've got Autism Parenting Secrets as the podcast. We have allinparent.com as the website.
Or autismparenting-secrets.com as well. They both go to the same place.
Nice.
And it's allinparent.com/go, which is this real short quiz. But again, people can reach out to me directly, len@allinparent.com. Again, it's such an honor to be able to be with fellow parents. And again, just listen to the podcast. You will be served. But if you're interested in exploring support or just want to reach out to me directly, definitely do so.
Awesome.
Well, I know we left. I think we crashed when you were asking how far we go back.
Right.
We go back at least I think about 3 years. But even before then, the first time we met was at the Option Institute, the Sunrise program, when we were doing a program there because we did we did behavioral intervention early on. We did ABA therapy. Right. Eventually, we switched to a child-centered approach, which was more of a fit for us. And it was up there that we were there in a program, and you were visiting, as a pediatrician who just wanted to learn more, which I thought even then, I'm like, wow, look at this guy. He really cares, and he really wants to be able to serve his patients outside of medical, right? You wanted to know what else was available. So I thought that was dynamite.
Wow. I haven't, and I love Round, Kaufman, and he's got a great program up there, but man, I haven't been up there. It's got to be 10 plus years.
Yes. Yeah. So it goes way back.
That goes way back. Long time. I got to reach out to him. I think we got to have him on. Anyway, and for those of you guys signing back on, this will be our Q&A. So if we've got a couple questions. So some of them will be for you. Some will be medical stuff for me. Put your questions in the comment section. Gata asks, my child is 12 years old and his IgE level is a 5. Is that normal or not? I need your advice. So Gata, if that's a total IgE level, then that's perfectly normal. And let me explain it to everybody so you know, if you're looking at your lab tests, when we test for allergies, and these are frank allergies, food allergies, environmental allergies, trees, molds, shrimp, strawberries, etc. They're testing an antibody, an immune system called IgE, okay? And they'll look at the IgE for each individual thing, whether it's a food or a tree or a grass or whatever. But then they'll add them all up. And that'll be called a total IgE or a total immunoglobulin E. And I think you want that number less than 100. I think that's a ballpark. So if that total number is a 5, you're great. I mean, that's practically no allergies. If one of those substances is a 5, then you've definitely got an allergy. So the answer to your question depends if it's all of them or if it's an individual. And if you do have a frank allergy to a food, avoid the food. If you've got a frank allergy to, a grass or a tree, try to avoid it as you can. I wouldn't do allergy shots. I just learned a couple years ago, allergy shots contain aluminum, which is a neurotoxin. Even I myself, I was super allergic to cats, so I had allergy shots for cats. Didn't know they were filled with aluminum. All right, Jasmine. Jasmine says, I have a question for Len. Len, what do you say to people who say you are wrong for trying to fix your child? As I've shared more and more of my son's story to a lot of people, people have gotten upset, told me I don't accept him for who he is. There seems to be a whole autism movement upset at biomedical parents. So I want to hear your answer, and then I got a response as well.
Great. I love this question, and I can't tell you how much this comes up as a real point of friction for parents. And there's just no need for any friction. I guess number one, don't give a crap what other people think. Number one. And I know that sounds trite, but honestly, it doesn't matter. But the more important thing is, the people who say something like that, don't fix the child, it's coming from a good place in a sense that, we want to honor the individuality of every person, right? And that's a beautiful thing. But in this case, the way I look at it, it's a 1-2 punch on how to look at this. It starts with complete and sincere acceptance of your child as they are right now. Now, that doesn't mean that you want autism to stay or the behaviors to stay. It just means your child in your heart, that you accept them for who they are, It's not like they have to get somewhere for you to really accept them. And, you know, I was totally got this backwards early on. I said idiotic things like, I love my child, but I hate the autism. And that's nonsense. Either I love my child or I don't. I can't love a part of him. So that's where parents, to get into true acceptance of your child as they are now, and even if they stay where they are now, you still accept them. That's a wonderful thing. But at the same time, from that place of acceptance, not judgment, but from acceptance, then the second part of this is to take the right actions. And I say the right actions because it comes down to, what is your child's unique needs? What are you wanting to help them with? It's not about fixing them. It's not about forcing them to be neurotypical. It's about seeing what's happening with them. And what you want is, you want your child to lead a healthy, vibrant, full life, you know, to thrive. And for every child on the spectrum, what's at the root of what's preventing them from being all they can be and being engaged in society, that's going to be different, which is why having a practitioner like you is so key to figure out what biomedically is going on, right? And so that's where you're never going to, if you're doing anything meaningful, you're never going to have everyone cheering you on. There are going to be people throwing rocks at you. What I found is, it's usually the people who throw rocks are the ones who, it's not about you, it's about them. And so take someone who says, don't do a gluten-free diet, that's nonsense. Well, for them, they may have tried it and it didn't work. And they don't want to hear that it was successful for someone else, versus, you know, and maybe they did something wrong. So everyone's trying to keep themselves safe. And there's just going to be people throwing rocks at you, and that's okay. So yes, accept your child. Don't try to change them to something they're not, but meet them where they are, as every parent's ever done, right? What's going on with my child? How can I help them? And it's really hard to figure out what's going to help your child the most if you're judging them as broken. So that's why that acceptance is such an important piece.
Very well said. My answer is going to be less kind than yours, because I've encountered the neurodiverse community and have gotten their pushback. And, you know, I've got a much more frank answer to that question, Jasmine. And I think this answer applies to everyone. We love our kids. Number one, we love our kids. I love my daughter. I'll do anything for her. You love your kids. You'll do anything for them. Okay. And guess what? If my child had epilepsy and had a seizure every hour and fell down and smashed her head on the floor, I'm not going to say, oh, I love her for who she is. I don't want to fix her. Yeah, she's got a medical issue that's going to hurt her, and I want to help her because I love her. And if my child has autism, which is a medical condition, I'm not going to just accept it and say, okay, I love them. Of course, I'm going to love them, but not help them. Yes, of course I love them. But guess what? I have patients who are in their 20s and in a home and still wearing diapers. So I don't, you know what? I want every parent and every child to make their own decision. If you feel you're in a great place, that's great. And I'm going to sidebar here, getting a little flustered, as I often do. I was giving a speech down in Tennessee. It was in Knoxville. And I was actually speaking with, I think it's the first person with autism who became a lawyer. She's a lawyer down in Florida. I can't remember her name. She's great. And she was a much better speaker than I am at the event. And you know, and she had a lot of neurodiverse, you know, people with her, and they came up to me after and said, we didn't really like you. We didn't like you because you were trying to fix autism. And that means you're trying to fix us, which means something's wrong with us. Mm. And so I think there's a lot of that kind of ego that goes along with it. But at the end of the day, you love your child, and if you choose to help them, people are out there to help. I'm here to help. Other people are out there to help. You're here to help. If if a person doesn't want to help, that's fine. But don't put that on somebody else that, hey, I don't think you should do something for your child because I have an issue with it.
That's right.
So look, if there's a medical thing going on with my kid, I'm going to do something about it. So yep. A little bit harsher answer, but
I think they're congruent, and simply put, you know, you, the parent, can decide what if what's happening now is something that you want to endeavor to improve, right? So at some point I could see where a parent's like, listen, I'm not going to keep doing X, Y, and Z, and that's totally fine.
Right.
But I think what's not okay is sitting on your hands with this idea, oh, I'm not going to change my child, when really this is a call to action. You know, will you answer the call to make good decisions for your child? And the reality, Dr. Jared, is the good decisions for your child invariably are going to mean you're going to piss some people off. Mm-hmm. So are you okay with that? Is that a price you're willing to pay because you want to be the parent you want to be for your child? And I'm just amazed at how many parents are more concerned about what people think than really doing what's right for their child.
Right.
And how many parents, including me, again, everything I say, I was there, but I can't. What's crazy to me is what I've discerned is that parents fear inconvenience more than anything. Like, not, changing the diet for the whole family is so inconvenient that it's so much better to say, I did gluten-free for 3 days and it didn't work. So I'm going to go back to eating crap food or something that I know is inflammatory, right? So that's where, if you truly want what you want, it's going to require being bold. And again, having a thicker skin and doing what's right, even if people don't approve, because again, you're not going to have everyone cheering you on. And so for me, it's just hiding behind this noble idea. Well, I'm going to accept my child as they are. No. All those symptoms, everything that's happening, there's a reason for it. It's a call to action to figure out what can help your child. And if you do that, and at some point you're like, listen, I'm done, and there's nothing more I think I can do. Okay, that's fine. But early on, especially when a child's young, as you know, the amazing thing is there's so much that you can do, but doing everything makes no sense. So choose wisely.
Yeah, exactly. And the next question is the same. Gada says, I'm really distressed. Some people told me to leave him in a specialized center for autism. What's your advice? My advice is do what you believe is right as a parent. Again, I love my daughter, and I accept my daughter. And if my daughter was born with diabetes, I'm going to accept that she has diabetes, and I'm going to help.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do something to help her feel better because I love her. Okay? But that comes down to the belief that, you know what? Let's say my daughter has diabetes. Let's say my daughter has epilepsy. I have the belief and the hope that I can help and I can make her life better. So going back to your question, Gada, what my advice is, if you believe that you can help your child, just like I've been doing for 20 years, and Len and Cass have been doing for over a decade, and everybody here in this community is doing for their child. If you feel you can help your child and that feels right to you, then do it. That's it. All right. I hope we got some more stuff. Reem has a medical question. My son's in a PANS flare. What's the best treatment for a PANS flare? 2 things, anti-inflammatories and antivirals. All right. So stuff from Spectrum Awakening, you're going to want like our curcumin supplement, which I think is out of stock. Double check. Our Panda Bear, which is anti-inflammatory. And then you want to hit with antivirals like our Viragone or our ViraClear. But you want to kill the bug and you want to reduce the inflammation. You can even use over-the-counter ibuprofen. Remember, no Tylenol. We're off of that. Sorry, when I get flared, I can't calm down, Len.
Hey, Dr. Jared, I did get a question from somebody in our newsletter who had a question who might not be able to join this live, and it's similar to what you talked about a couple of questions ago. So, how to help and transform her child's gut health to improve brain health when they have allergies, significant allergies, and diet restrictions. So that's where this one mom was wanting some guidance there, and that's so relevant for our journey. Right. Because in all honesty, with Rye, autism was actually like a secondary issue compared to his life-threatening peanut allergy and the fact that he became allergic to all food. So we know this area well, but I'd be curious what you would say to that.
Right. So my general answer is going to be that the gut of our kids on the spectrum, the stomach, the intestines, the colon, is often poorly functioning compared to a neurotypical kid. And the major dysfunction is a lack of an immune system. So we get kids with very poor immune systems, specifically in the gut. So they tend to grow a lot of infections. Now it can be bacteria, that can be parasites, it can be candida, mold, viruses, you name it. I've seen it. And so when you got that infection in there for months to years, the body's going to be trying to fight it, but it's like a sprained ankle. You sprain your ankle and it swells up, and it's hard to use, and anything is going to be inflamed. And that's what happens in the gut. There's this chronic inflammation because there's this chronic immune response that isn't strong enough to kick out the bug, and it starts to attack everything, even your food. And so the number one thing to do when we're looking at allergies and food sensitivities and such is to look at the gut's immune system and look for gut infections and to kill those off. And that helps a lot of our kids.
Yep.
We got time for a couple more questions. I know we paused because of Facebook technology.
And Dr. Jared, I would just throw out,
please.
Speaking about significant life-threatening allergies and the idea of, being so restricted, that didn't hold us back at all. And again, I defer to Cass, where she, in terms of what she was able to do with food, with having so few ingredients that my son could have, still was able to make sure his diet was nourishing, that he got the healthy fats, that he got the proteins, that he got vegetables and all these things. And she made it so that from his standpoint, it's just good food. There's like no sacrificing, no nothing. Right. But boy, that took effort, right? That took effort, that took getting educated and spending a lot of time in the kitchen. And that's why that's her sweet spot, is to help parents figure that out in terms of getting food right. Because again, even if you're the deck stacked against you with limited options, you can still serve your child nourishing food. But the first step is to not feed them crap, toxic food.
Yeah. All right, we got time for a couple more. Son says, exactly, I agree. There's nothing wrong with trying to increase your child's independence and ability to communicate. We're only fixing what needs to be fixed. And it's so semantical. Like, oh, I need to fix my child. And that brings up the notion that something's wrong. And it's just ego that gets in the way there. Chuck Woody says, he's talking about something else. Jasmine says, thank you for us vocalizing our opinion. Jeannie says, bravo, Dr. Skowron and Len. This is the most awesome live. This is a call to action. You're welcome, Jeannie. I want everybody to check out Len's stuff. Go to allinparenting.com/go, listen to Autism Parenting Secrets podcast. Son asks a medical, do you recommend the mitochondrial cocktail or supplement prior to testing? Yes, I do. So I would try it, see how your kid responds. Any side effects? Sometimes you're going to get a little hyperactivity. You could just back down the dose. Depends on how bad the bacterial infection is, because there's an issue with carnitine and bacterial infections in the gut. But I would try it. Jerry says, Jerry's promoting somebody else. And Gata says, thanks. So that's all the live questions we've got today. So let me just say thanks for coming on, Len. I love what you and Cass do. And again, you are on this road. You've been on this road, and now you're trying to take what you've learned and help other parents. So any kind of last comments for parents listening to say, hey, you know what? This is what we've got, and this is why we want to help, and you've got to make sure you do this.
Yeah. As a parent, you don't have to do anything. Again, this is just an opportunity. Are you ready to truly get equipped for this journey? Again, if you are, and you're willing to roll up your sleeves, and again, just operate at this different level. Again, listen to the podcast, make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right team, make sure you're clear about what you want, who you need on the team. And I would say unapologetically go for what you want for yourself and your child. Now, again, if what you want is for them to be neurotypical and to be something they're not, that's not a great goal. But in terms of them thriving and being the best that they can be, just like you're going to become the best that you can be, go for that. Absolutely go for that. And again, the podcast is the place to go. Your 2 episodes, by the way, were episodes 64 and 151. We are over 205 episodes now. And in all honesty, just listen to the podcast if you do nothing else. Not that we're so great, but we've had dynamite guests, and we make this a really good use of your time to really share something that's going to really help you as you navigate. And again, if you want to explore coaching, reach out, go to our website, allinparent.com, autismparenting secrets.com. but just so honoring all of you with the unique journey you're on. And thank you for showing up big. Being on this is no small thing because you're out there wanting answers for your child. Just don't forget yourself as well to work on yourself and to become that parent that you know you can be.
Well said, Len. So thank you again for being on. Appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in and listening and doing everything you can to help your child. And make sure we'll see you next week. We're going to wrap up our month of stress podcast. We're going to be talking about supplements that you can take as a parent to help build your endurance so you can be a better parent to help your child. All right. Thanks, Len. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see you later.
Take care, everyone.